Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're playing Alpha by B.PEN. Now, we featured a couple of other puzzles from B.PEN on the channel. In particular, the one that sticks out to me is, I think it was called Hornode. And what B.PEN has done is he's created a number of puzzles in this series that are all based on Metroid, the game, which basically centers around kind of this protagonist that goes around, I guess, fighting lots of evil creatures and I guess humans as well, and not just entirely creatures. But kind of core to the game is the fact that there's a lot of control of temperatures, hot and cold. So very much the center of these puzzles is that there is a lot of thermometers. And when I put up the grid, I mean a lot of thermometers. Now, I just want to sort of briefly mention the artwork before I move on. So B.PEN did send me a picture of the creature, which I think he sourced from the game based on it. And the puzzle diagram very much is a really good representation of the picture. It's just, I have mentioned in the past that Nintendo, who are the owners of this particular franchise, are famously very litigious. They go after their fans quite strongly. So I don't particularly fancy having a conversation with their lawyers, so I had to come up with something that looks like an alpha, but let's call it inspired by an alpha. So, from the pictures I've seen, it is like an insect-like creature that flies. It does have sort of this type of shell in the background. What else can I mention about it? It does have red eyes. It does have pincers. So a lot of kind of the high-level items in here and features are very similar, but you should probably just look it up to try and actually see something that looks somewhat resembling what we're going to have on the grid. Just one last thing I want to mention. I am approaching this with quite a bit of trepidation, if I'm honest. So because these puzzles have not been featured on any puzzle site, I really have no idea about the difficulty of these puzzles. Now, B.PEN assures me that they are entirely approachable, given the volume of clues that are on the grid. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not convinced. Normally if I take a look at a grid, I can usually see what the break-in would be like. But I'll be entirely honest with you guys, I have no clue where to start. And this could be fun. This could be the first fail video. Or I could be entirely wrong, and it is entirely approachable as B.PEN described. So let's take a look at the grid and the puzzle and the rules. We have first part, normal Sudoku rules apply. So that means the digits 1 to 9 in every row, no repeats, every column, no repeats, and every 3x3 box as outlined by these thicker black lines. We also have digits cannot repeat within a cage. You can see that we've got one cage here that's sort of defined by these dashed lines, and then another cage down here. No totals, just cannot repeat. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a 9-cell cage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-cell cage. So we know that the digits 1 to 9 appear in these cages with no repeats. We just need to figure out where they are. Now, I did mention normal thermo rules. So, there's a lot of thermometers, as you can see, tons of thermometers. And you can see that picture, if you look it up, you will see that, yeah, these thermometers really do actually do pretty good justice of actually showing what an alpha creature looks like. So thermometers, they're essentially, short thermo here in the description, but the thermometers are essentially exactly like real life thermometers in that there is a bulb end, and this is where the lowest temperature is. And as you go up the thermometer, the temperature increases. So essentially, if you have a digit here, let's say that's 3, the next one along doesn't have to be 4, it just has to be something higher than 3. Let's go with 5, and then the next one along has to be again higher than 5, so it could be 7 or 8, 8 or 9. And that would be a valid fill of this thermo, and indeed all the other thermos have the same set of rules. I can't come along, for example, and put a 4 in here. That's less than 5, that breaks. So you have to be continuously increasing from the bulb end. We also have normal kropki dot rules apply. And we have no shortage of dots. I think this is maybe where I have a little bit of hope, in that we've got tons of white dots. So the way to think about white dots is that they are 2 consecutive digits. So for example, if this was, let me pick this 2 here, if that was 2, that would be 1 or 3, because it has to be consecutive. So 1 and 2 would be consecutive, or 2 and 3 would be consecutive. The other option, and we only have one of them, is a black dot here at the bottom. And if this digit was a 2, this has to be in a 1 to 2 ratio. So 1 still works. 1 times 2 is 2. The other option would be a 4. 2 times 2 is 4. So essentially, 1 is a multiple of the other, times 2. That's all the rules we have for today. We have a little bit of lore, though, before we get started. The Alpha Metroid has gained immunity to cold temperature. The loss of several nuclei within its green membrane has left it vulnerable to concussive weaponry. A plated exoskeleton partially covers it. I imagine that's probably a quote from the game. I'm not entirely certain. But I think I am looking forward to it. You know, I am a video gamer myself. But like I said, I am approaching it with a little bit of fear because I genuinely have no clue about where to get started. Now, if you have a bit more of a clue, or if you're willing to struggle along with me, link will be in the description down below as usual for you to play along. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. So I'm just taking it all in, because it's just, there's a huge amount of information on the grid. But, well, information is the wrong word to use. There's a lot of data and clues on the grid. I don't know if I have any information yet. I'm not really sure where to start. So, kind of box 5, because there is kind of the play with the cage, there are tons of thermometers, there are kropki dots, feels like a place to maybe think about for a bit. The other place that kind of catches my eye is box 1, because we have a run of 4 cells that are all connected with white kropki dots in the same box. So we have basically like almost like a Rembrandt line. I mean, not just a Rembrandt line, it is in very specific order. Like, so if that's a 1, that's 2, 3, 4, not just in any random order. But the fact that we have 4 consecutive digits places, I think, a lot of pressure on all of these. So I am very tempted to think about box 1 first. And as I think about it, I am thinking this is where I'm going to start. And then I'm probably going to sort of work my way somehow back to box 5. Right. So box 1, the question to ask is, where does 1 lie? Now, kind of very obvious clue. This can't be a 1. In fact, none of these on the thermometer could be a 1. Let's go with this one here. If that was a 1, that has to be lower on the thermo, and that's 0. Doesn't work under normal Sudoku rules. No zeros in the grid. So best case scenario, this thermometer this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And even because this is a 3, I can't put a 1 in here. The lowest digit I can put is a 2. So I'm just going to show you all the lowest digits I can put in here. And then I try the same kind of logic in here. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So take a look at all of these. None of these can be 1. 1 has to be on here. So essentially, that helps me resolve, to some degree, this run, which is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, or the reverse 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can pencil mark it as such. Right, what else can I tell about this? Where can I'm thinking about the next digit up from here, a 5. And what am I thinking about a 5? Because the minimum this can be now is, I can have a minimum of 5, 6. Technically, yeah, this is the minimum. Because if I don't put a 5 in here, the next digit along will be a 6, this will be a 7, and then I can't come back to 5. So these two cells, plus this one can never be a 5. 5 is in one of these two cells. And if it's on this one, it actually places quite a bit of pressure on this thermo, because 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah. It would leave only 1 degree of freedom, which is good to know. The other places, I mean, the other digit that I'm thinking of right now is the other extreme, which would be a 9. And there's a few more options. I could have 9 in any of these, I think. This white kropki dot almost feels like it deserves a bit of thinking here. I don't think this can be a 9, because the implication is that this is an 8 for it to be consecutive to a 9. And then what am I going to put in this digit, in this cell? So 9 is not in either of these cells, clearly not this one, because there are 2 digits that are higher. 9 is in one of these, which is a bit of a shame, because it, really doesn't give much pressure to whichever thermometer it actually ends up being on. So where am I going with all of this? So essentially 6, 7, and 8 are in here, with a 7 joining them. That's the only way I can have 6 and 7 or 7 and 8. And notice 5s and 9s are not part of these two cells. So 6, 7, or 8, this means this is, I guess, 1 up from that. That's 7, 8, or 9. This is 1, well, not 1 down. It doesn't have to be, but it's at least 1 down. It's just, I'm not going to pencil mark all of this, because if this is as low as a 1, this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to write that in. That's as far as I'm going to take it in here. Now, this is somewhat interesting in that there is yet another run in here of 3 consecutive digits. But it's just, it could be a lot of options. I mean, if it's 7, I can go 6, 5. Doesn't really interfere with any of this. It could even ascend. I can do 7, 8, 9 in this order instead. And that would also work. So I'm not actually, no, I said 7 has to be here. So that's not 7. That's 8 or 9 only. Ignore the pencil marks that you just put, Sudoku, Sleuth. I don't know why you would do that. So this is actually a lot more restricted than I thought, because essentially it has to be descending, since it's either 8, 7, 6 or 8. I mean, I'll just draw it. So it's, if that's a 9, that's 8 and 7. If that's an 8, I can't descend because it'll be go 8, 9, 10 and clearly break the puzzle. It has to descend. It's 8, 7, 6. So it's a bit more restricted than I actually thought. I mean, lovely. Lots and lots and lots of pencil marks. No digits, and we're at minute 6, approaching 7. So, like, I want to sort of take, the last 7 minutes and make sure they're not wasted, and somehow bring it into my next attempt of a break in box 5. I just don't know what that would be. So something that occurs to me is, again, with all of these thermos, where does 9 occur? No 9 here, no 9 there, no 9 there, there, there. 9 is only in one of 2 cells. It's one of these 2. And in fact, I know where 9 is. If that was a 9, that would be an 8. And then what on earth am I doing with 2 more cells that are bigger than 8, including one that can't be a 9 because I've already placed it? So that's not the 9. That's the 9. I'm so tempted to say, boo-hoo, what has that done? But I mean, we've got a digit. It's only 8 minutes in, but a digit. Can't complain about that. So none of these can be 9, which means the maximum this can be now is an 8, which is actually quite interesting. If that's an 8, that forces this to be 6, 7, 8 in here. That forces this to be 6, 7. That becomes 5, 9. You know, it does a huge amount if that was 8. But I guess what I'm saying is that's none of these are 8 now. That's not 8 because we've got 2 cells. That's not 8, we've got 2 cells. I'm going to say that's not 8 either, because if that was 8, that would be 7. What are these 2 digits? So I'm going to almost like color these now. None of these are 8. That's not 8. That's not 8 because we've got 2 more cells. And based on this pencil marking, that the best case scenario is that's a 9, 8, 7. That's a maximum of 6. So, sorry, I didn't mean to color this cell. So where does 8 go? Progress, 2 digits. Let's not break out the champagne all at once, I think. In general, actually, now that I keep thinking about it, because I keep sort of revolving around this cell in the middle, the more I kind of place digits, the more pressure this is under. This can't be a particularly high digit, because I've already placed a lot of the high digits. So as long as I'm essentially having to descend, so let me think this through. This is a maximum now of 7. This is now a maximum of 6. And therefore this is a maximum now of 5. That's like as far as it can be. So this is actually helpful to know. I think I'm going to keep going in box 5 and think about what's next. 7, again, can't put it in here. That's 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a no. 7, unfortunately, could go here because I can place an 8 legitimately here without a problem. 7, 8, 9, not possible. 9 sees this cell. I mean, I'm going to say sort of obvious. No, this can't be a 7 because that would require an 8 and a 9, and that doesn't work. So not 7. I'm back to coloring again, everyone. None of these are 7. This can be, unfortunately. This can't be. And this can't be. Right, this can't be because it becomes 7, 8, 9. If I put 8 and 9 in here, what is this cell going to be? I've used up all of its possible values. So that can't be 7, not 7, not 7, not 7. Unfortunately, it can be 7. No, it can't be. Because if I put a 7 in here, that's 8 and 9. And notice these two cells are going to see each other, 8 and 9. So I'd have double 8 in the column, double 9 in the column, and a white kropki dot that's somehow joining them. So that's not a 7 either. And I said the maximum this can be is a 5. I've sort of proven that already. So that's the 7. This sees the 9. Therefore, this is an 8. This places, look at that now. We've got tons of digits. This is a 6-7 pair. This is a 5-9 pair, but I obviously can't put the 9 in here. That's a 9. That's a 5. This is 4 or 6 to be consecutive with the 5. And we're making progress. I am liking my chances about solving this now. Right. This can be 6. This can't be. If this is 6, I think this has to be 7 and 9, based on the fact that this is an 8, and this would be 6, and this would be 4. So that actually works. So I'm going to color again, everyone. That's not 6. I think I've proven this can be. This can't be. It already sees a 6 anyway. 6 kind of works because I could do 7, 8. No. The challenge is actually this white kropki dot. So if that's a 6, this is, 7 or 8, 8 or 9, and then I need something that is consecutive again. So maybe what I can do is 7, 9, and 8. That works. And then I could do, I guess this is consecutive. This has to be an 8. What am I going to do here? This has to be a 7. So I think this can't be 6. This can be, unfortunately. This can be 6, 8. No, it can't be. Because if this is 6, 7 is gone from the column. So this is now an 8, requiring a 9, which you can see in the column. So this can't be 6. This can be, and this can't be. I think we're starting to slowly exhaust our options around box 5. But both of these options, whether it's this or that, actually places a lot of pressure on there. Essentially, if this is a 6, that becomes 7, 9, 6, 4. If this is a 6, that has to be a 5, because that's the only remaining consecutive digit in the box since we've already placed a 7. But I guess the point is it actually just forces a lot of things. But I'm not sure I can resolve it. What I am tempted to do, though, is maybe just venture out of box 5 for a bit and actually have a think about this now. The fact that this is 6, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. And they're all kind of in this box. I shouldn't lose sight of that. 2, 3, 4 in here means it's actually quite a few options. Not quite, because I've got 8, 7, 6 staring in here. So the maximum I can make this cell is 4, 5, and then 9. Because I've already taken 6, 7, 8 in the column. So this is actually surprisingly more restricted than one might imagine. And then 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3, 4, 5, 9. It's kind of interesting, actually. So this is 5 maximum, and then 4. So I'm wondering if it's actually worthwhile just pencil marking some of these and just seeing what emerges. None of these are 9. I guess that's kind of one statement. I probably should have started with that rather than actually fill in everything, realize this is a quintuple, and then look at the 9. I have a habit of doing that recently. So it removes a degree of freedom from here, another degree of freedom from there. 5 is now restricted to here. And I guess 5 is restricted to one of these two cells. Okay. Here is something. Sorry, I was just thinking, I'm starting to fill out a lot of this cage. And I thought, what are some of the restricted digits? So I was thinking, where can 1 go? So one option is here. And as incredible as that sounds, that's the only option. So if I place a 1 in here, that becomes a 2. And then I need to come up with a digit that's lower than 2 on this bulb. And it's not 1 because I've already placed it in the column. So that can't be 1. 1 can't be partway up a thermometer. I mean, it doesn't matter how much. I'm really only focusing on this cage. Then the last kind of cell that's available is this one. And then that would require, because I've got a white kropki dot, a double 2, which is ridiculous in the same box. So this is a 1. That's not 1. Another degree of freedom removed. That's a 4, 3, 2, 1. This is now 3, 4, 5. down here. I don't need the color. 6 is in none of these. 6 is up here. Which, you know, I could still take. That's a 6. That's a 7. That's a 6. None of these are 3 anymore. That's a 2. Doesn't remove the degree of freedom. That's all right. That's not a 2. That can only be a 3. This is now 4-5 pair. I know there is a triplet in here. Actually, that's a 2 now because I've already got the 1 and 3 looking at it. I have a triplet in here which is composed of 1, 8, 9. And I have a 6-7 pair in here, which thankfully is consecutive per the white dot. This has to be one of 8, can't be 7, 6 or 5. So what have I not placed in here? In the cage again, back to the cage. So I've got a 4-5, I've got a 4-6. We know one of these is a 6, but I'm looking at the digits that I've pencil marked and I'm thinking I haven't placed a 2. And if I try and make this a 2 for a second, I'm not sure this is going to work. 3 is in here, and it has to be consecutive to the 2, so that would require this to be a 1, and then what would this digit be? We're back to zeros again. So that's not the 2. Clearly that's not the 4-6, that's not adjacent to the 5, that's the 2, and therefore look at the consecutive here on the thermo. That helps me. That's 1, that's 3. That's a wide range of digits between 3 and 9, so I will ignore this for now. Now I have a 4-6 in here, I have a 4-5. This is another 4-5 because I've already got a 6 in the row, and therefore this is the 6. And I'm done with this cage, but it has really been quite useful. I'm still thinking about box 5 more broadly, such as no 1's in here. 1 is in one of these 2. No 2's in here. One of these is a 2. No 3's. That's a 2-3 pair. 2-3 pair. And therefore that's a 1. That's the only remaining slot for a 1. That's a 6. That's the only remaining slot for a 6. That's a 5. That's a 4. That's a 5. That's a 2-3 pair. I need a remaining 4. 1 is placing no real pressure here. So 6, it's not 5, 2 or 3. This is either 1 or 4. And not 2, 3, 5. Yeah. It's in the same cage as a 1 though. So that's a 4. In fact, if I start thinking about this cage for a second, that's not a 1. And I'm sure there'll be more use to extract from it in a moment. I just want to think about this cage, sorry, this thermometer bundle with all of these white kropki dots. It's proved quite tricky to actually do. So I have in the row 5, 7, and 8 that are remaining. That's clearly the 5, 7. This is the 7, 8. And because it's consecutive, that's the 7, 8. Can't put a 5 back in here connecting to a 7, 8. That's the 5. So 4, this needs to be higher than 4, and it's not 5, and it's consecutive to 5. That's a 6. I'm going to say this is 7, 8, or 9, and I can't resolve it beyond that because it's consecutive with this. What else can I do? The 4 is starting at a 3. That's a 4, 5 pair. Have I removed any options in here? A few. It's now 5 or 8, so 6 with a 5, 7 with an 8. I say a few. I only removed one option. There's a 1 down here, just Sudoku, and it's not this cell. I mean, it's at the end of the thermometer, but it's also another 1 in the same cage that you see outlined here. That's the 1. That's not a 1. That's the 1 because we have an 8, 9 pair now. This cage might be helpful, but let's just think about this column for a second. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 7 and 8. not resolved as far as I could tell. There's a world of digits between 1 and 7 and 8. It's not 2, 3, 4, or 6. So, yeah. So I think the other day you guys met my oldest dog. Whenever you hear the barking, though, it's not actually coming from her. She's very peaceful. The barking comes from my youngest dog that maybe at some point I will introduce you to her. But just before I do so, let me just fill in this digit, which can only be a 5. I did say there's a world of digits between 1 and 7, 8. But when you don't have 2, 3, 4, 6, or 7, it can only be a 5. So take it. Right, we need a 3 in this cage. This is the only remaining cell. That gives me the 2, the 3. And then I have 6, 7, and 8, and 9. This is, I need a 6 in the cage. It's not here. That's the 6. That's the 7. That's an 8. I need a 7, 8, or 9. This is actually 7 or 9 because I've already got an 8 in the column. I actually have an 8 in the box. That's a 7. That's a 9. That's an 8. That's a 9. That's an 8, 9, looking at a 7, 8, 7. I'm kind of running out of pencil marks. I'm going to have to pencil mark a bit more. 8 up here, joined with either a 7 or 9. It's not a 7. That's a 9. I can actually resolve this digit now, which is a 4. I have 2 more to go in here. It's 5 and 7. If it's a 5, it can't be 4 or 6. It's not a 5. It's a 7, and it's not 6. It's an 8. That's a 5. I think we pretty much got it from here. We've largely used all the clues at this point, and it's just doing like pretty simple Sudoku, I think, for the most part. But let's just finish this quickly now. We've got 3, 4, and 9 in here. Well, this can't be the 3, because that's the 3 on the thermometer. That's 4, that's 9, that's 3. That needs to be 2 or 4. It's not 2, it's a 4. I need in here 1 or 6. 6 in the column tells me that's the 1, that's the 6. Filling these in, this is 2, 3, and 9. Well, the 2, 3 are connected as such. This is the 9. Can I resolve these 2, 3s? Not for the moment. What else can I do? Kind of tempted to take a look at this because I've got 3, 6. So I know it's from 1, 2, 4, and 8. It's not 1. This is 2, 4, or 8, which I'm just going to pencil mark, and therefore a definite 4. That was probably available for a while, but I was enjoying the rest of the puzzle. That's not an 8. That's not a 4. This is the 4, because that's the only way we can connect 2 or 8. That's a 5. That's a 4. What do I have in here? Well, let's just finish this box, actually. I need a 2 and 6, I'm going to say. 6 gives me that this is the 2. That's the 6. Therefore, that's an 8. This is a 9 to finish the row. This is a 1 to finish that row. I have in here a 2, 3, and 5, which I guess the fact that I still have 2 3s in here isn't entirely surprising that I can't resolve. That's not a 5, that's not a 3, and that's about as far as I go. I've got a 2, 3 pair though, so I can place whatever this digit is. 7, I'm going to venture. Then I have a 1 and 6. This one gives me the order. To be fair, as this is 6. This 6 is consecutive with not the 7, the 5, and a 2, which will now resolve all of this for me. 5, 2, 3, and if I've not made any mistakes, that's a solution to today's puzzle. So under 30 minutes, and solve counter number 1, I think B.PEN, you absolutely need to get your puzzles out there. You deserve to have them played by more than just me, but thank you for the very personalized puzzle. I'll get this posted. Hopefully you'll get a few more plays after this. But it's an intimidating puzzle just because it really isn't that obvious where to start. But once you sort of work through the options, such as the fact that you can actually place the 9, forget all of the kind of shenanigans I did here in box 1. I think you probably needed it as part of the solution, as kind of path. I think the 9, the 8, and the 7 being actually placed, if you think through them pretty well. Were they placed? No, I needed the 876 in here, or 987. So I think it gives me the 9 and 8, but that's about it. The rest did actually require you to think about box 1. So it's a hard break-in, but once you get past box 1 and much of box 5, and in my case, pay attention to the fact that we have, all of these cages are really spelt out in the rules, but just how powerful they were, it flows fairly smoothly from here. So thank you very much for the puzzle, B.PEN. I hope you do feel comfortable posting it somewhere, such as Logic Masters Germany, but there are many other options, I'm sure. Hope you guys enjoyed the puzzle and the video, and looking forward to your comments, as I'm sure B.PEN is as well. Bye for now.